Okay, I think that's sufficient time. I think that's sufficient time. You got something, or you have a question? You think you got? Okay, let's see if you have it. Okay, this is what I gave you. You have a circle whose center is the point negative 5, 6. And then I threw this one other element in, that the circle you have must be tangent to the y-axis. So the y-axis is this vertical axis. My circle that I draw must just touch the y-axis at one point, right? Yes. Pardon me?
Did you unmute yourself?
Yes, I did. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't erase it. Normally I do erase it, but okay, thank you for checking. Here's the y-axis. The circle that we draw has to touch that at a single point. So if I draw this circle, that's not big enough, right? If I draw this circle, now I've hit the y-axis in 2 points. I need to just touch it in 1 point. So the only way to draw that is if my radius actually hits that point, right? And then draw my circle around like that. That means my radius is this distance from here to here. And the distance from here to here is the magnitude of this, right? It's not negative 5, it's the magnitude, which would be 5 units. So my radius is 5. So that's what this means right here. R is equal to 5. That means the equation should be x plus 5 squared plus y minus 6 squared equals 25. So I'm plugging into the formula. Minus 5 would be minus 5, which is plus 5. And then plugging in positive 6, we get y minus 6, both of them squared. Don't forget the squareds. And then equals the radius squared. Make sense? Now, what if I had said tangent to the x-axis? Is it the same circle? No. It's not the same circle. Now, the way I drew it, it kind of does look like it is, but then you need your circle's radius to come down here and touch that point right there, right? Which means the distance, the radius is going to be 6 instead. And so your equation would change, and that would be 36. Make sense? I'm going to adapt this problem just slightly. How about this? Same center, tangent to the vertical line x equals 3. Now again, remembering from college algebra, the equation of a vertical line, we know that lines have the equation y equals mx plus b, right? That's the equation, general equation of a line, y equals mx plus b, slope, intercept form of a line. Now, if your line is just a flat line, like just flat, no pitch to it, then it's something like y equals a constant. Like y equals 5 would be just a horizontal line 5 units up. Y equals negative 2 would be 2 units down, right? Vertical lines, on the other hand, have the equation x equals a number. So how would this change? I think I heard it already. Radius would be, now, yeah, x is 3 is over here, isn't it? So now you have this vertical line right here, and you want your circle to be tangent to this vertical line, which means your radius has to be from here all the way to here. That's 3, that was 5, so your radius would have to be 8. So the equation would be this, but 64. Yes or no? Okay. How are we doing on time? We're good. Try something else. Now this next one I give you is we're going to see if you can remember a formula. You may not remember this formula. I don't know. It depends on your background and how your brain works. I think I can do this with this picture, with my little program here. Okay, you see that circle right there? Yes? No, I didn't mean to do that. I messed it up. There we go. Okay, that one right there. This radius, I can move it around anywhere I want, but I'm going to put it somewhere specifically so that you can make note that this point right there, this is the center of my circle, and this point is on my circle right there. Right there. This dotted line, that dotted line. Can you get me the equation of that circle? Let's see if you can. Go ahead. I don't know if y'all are going to be able to get this. We're going to see how comfortable you are. You're going to need a formula. That's my hint to you. Let's see if anyone can come up with what the formula is you're going to need. Before I send you off into this abyss here, let me ask you something. What are the things you need to give me the equation of a circle? What are the things you have to have? The center, right? H and K, and the radius. That's it, right? What have I provided for you right now? I think you can tell what the center is, can't you? So the only thing left for you to resolve is what? What's the radius? What do you mean it's off? What do you mean it's off? Oh, this is the only point I'm telling you for sure lies on the circle. It does not hit up here. It's off intentionally there, okay? This is the only point I'm telling you for sure lives on that circle, okay? Now, I'll even put what that point is. You can tell what it is, can't you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the point 8, -1. All right, and this point right here, is that obvious that that's 5, -2? Okay, that's it. You cannot say that that hits right there. You would be assuming too much. And I'll make it even bigger so that I'll have to redraw this, but there. Can anyone tell me verbally what you need to find?
How you would do it back in high school.
The hypotenuse of what?
The triangle.
So you're drawing a little mental triangle there?
Yeah.
So you're telling me you're just trying to figure out how long that red line is? Yes? Is everyone trying to figure out how long that red line is? Yes? Yep. That's what you need to do. So, yeah. I'm going to step out for a minute. Y'all need to figure it out. I think you can. Again, look, if you sit there and stare at it, that's good because you do need to think about it. But I think at some point you have to start putting things on paper. You have to start drawing pictures. Draw your triangle that you see a triangle. Draw it. Try and figure out anything you know about that triangle. I think you might stumble upon it. Okay? But I'm going to step out because usually when I step out, my students are more productive. there's kind of two ways to approach this. One of them is you would have to know the formula, the distance formula. Given 2 points, what's the distance between the 2 points? And there's a formula for it from college algebra. I'm going to put it up here and see if it looks familiar. Okay, so given x1, y1, and x2, y2, the distance between them is d equals the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Now, I'm sure you all remember that. No. Okay, so that was one option, was to remember that formula. The other option is to be like most humans, which would be to just think through the problem and try and come up with something that's going to help. So drawing a right triangle right here, you do have the Pythagorean identity. Now that's something I would expect has been hardwired into your brain at some point in your life. If you have a right triangle, if this side's A and this side's B and this side's C, we know the relationship between those sides is that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Is it safe for me to assume that you all remember this? Yes? Okay. So working off of this, can you tell me how long this side is? How long is it? 3? Why? Because to get here, you had to move over 5, right? And to get here, you had to move over 8, which means the difference between the two is 3. So this side should be 3. And then what's the difference here? 1. And so you know that if we call this side C, right? A, B, and C. Are y'all all right? You're squinting, so yes? Okay. So we know that 3 squared plus 1 squared is C squared, which means 9 plus 1, 10. 10 equals C squared. And so C would be the square root of 10, which we would just leave as root 10. Y'all follow that? Yes? Now, as far as the equation of the circle, you need the center, which we have. So it'd be x what? Minus 5, that quantity squared, plus the quantity y plus 2, that quantity squared, equals 10. Because the distance from here to here, C is actually our radius, isn't it? So if C is root 10, if we square a square root, the square root goes away and you just get 10. Are we good? Okay. I'm going to ask you to do one. You have a homework problem. You have homework problems that you are asked to do, but I'm going to add this as a take-home quiz grade to be brought back next class. So this will be your first actual real math quiz, and you're allowed to work together. I don't mind if you help each other out. I don't want you to just run to the tutoring lab and ask a tutor how to do it, okay? I want you to actually try and think through this, all right? And yes, you can use Google and you can try and, if there's formulas you need or something, you might need to go try and find something. Here's what I have got for you here. I have a circle here. And this point right here on the circle is the point 6, 1. And then I have the center of the circle here. It doesn't look like the center, but it is supposed to be the center. And if you connect this point with this point and extend it straight through to the other side, you get a different point. And that point over there is the point 87. Okay? Yeah? I want to know the equation of this circle. And I'm going to tell you right now that I just made this problem up, which means that your numbers are probably not going to be pretty. All right? So what do you need to have the equation of a circle? What are the elements that you have to have? The center of the circle, all right? I've heard students say the origin. Just be careful with the language there. The center of the circle doesn't have to be the origin. So to find the equation of the circle, you need its center, okay? And then you need its radius. Have I given you either one? No. You have a point that is this point from here to here, that is actually referred to as the what of the circle? The diameter, right? All right, so I want to see how you do with this. If you go and you work on it and you get stuck and you're having trouble with it and you just can't come up with it by the beginning of class next time, that's fine. I'm not done. Sorry. I'm just letting you know. I don't want you to pack. I'm done with this idea. I would rather you come to class with you've worked on it but couldn't get it than to just go find someone in the hallway that's going to, hey, how did you do it? Oh, and you're out there copying it down. I'd rather you turn in something that's incorrect or just nothing and have tried than to just copy someone else's work. All right? I don't want you to ask me questions on this one. Okay? On this one, I don't want you emailing me or texting me saying, so is this right? You're on your own for this. I want to see what you do. I'll give you one more hint. This point right here is in the middle of this line segment, right? This point to this point, that point should be in the middle, right? 2 points. This point should be in the middle, shouldn't it? That is the midpoint. That's technically called a midpoint. Given 2 points, the point right in the middle is called the midpoint, and there's a formula for that. I think that's enough. I've given you enough there. All right, last topic. Last topic. Y'all work on that at home. Hold on, that's not for now, okay? That's not for now. We have to do one more thing. Given x minus 7 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 81, find the center and the radius. All right, so look at this problem here. We're switching gears, all right? We're still dealing with circles, but now I'm actually giving you the equation, not a picture, and I'm asking you to provide me now with the center and the radius just from looking at the equation. So can you just look at that and tell me what the center and the radius is? Should be. Yeah, that is the exact form of the general equation. So your center should be what? 7, negative 3, and the radius should be what? Just 9, right? Because remember, that number over there is the radius squared, isn't it? We good? All right, that was supposed to be pretty straightforward. Now, let me give you another one. How about 2 times x plus 4 squared plus 2y squared equals 6. Same question. Find the center and the radius. So does that look like the general form? I'll put the general form right here so you can remember what it looks like.
If you believe hard enough, yeah.
Does that look like this? Kind of, right? But what is the coefficient in front of this parenthesis? It's a 1. And we don't have a 1 there. We have a 2, don't we? Deal with it. How do you deal with it? How could you deal with it? You could divide a 2, right? Couldn't you? Why don't we divide both sides of the equation by 2? And what would you be left with if you divide both sides of the equation by 2? You get x squared, or x plus 4 quantity squared plus y squared equals 3. Okay, so just remember, when I divided by 2, I divided that by 2, I divided that by 2, I divided that by 2. This 2 here does not have an impact on that 4, because that 4 is trapped in that parenthesis, so 2's cancel here, 2's cancel here, and that becomes a 3. Now, does this look like this? Yes? This is the only part that's kind of not there, but what does that mean? 0. That means k is 0. Look, this right here really means y minus 0 squared, right? Isn't that the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just write it all out. That's this, and then this is... Okay? Do y'all see that? So what is the center of this circle? I'll put C for center. -4, 0. And then what's the radius? Careful. Square root of 3. Questions there? I have 12 minutes. Last one. X squared plus y squared plus 4x minus 2y plus 1 equals 0. Hold on a second, let me make sure. Yeah, that should work. Okay, I'm telling you that that is the equation of a circle. I'm telling you that. That is a circle, okay? I would like to know what the center and what the radius of this circle are. And right away, you should notice that we have a problem. Like, it does not look like our standard form, does it? Does it? No? Right? That's our standard form of a circle. Now, what this has that's kind of different, it's got an x squared term and it's got a y squared term, but it's also got like an x and y term that aren't squared. And you can't really see that in here, can you? However, if I were to multiply that x minus h out, don't do this right now, okay? Do not do this. Just watch me for a second. And if I were to multiply that y minus k squared out, this is what this would mean, right? And so you would FOIL this out, and you get x squared minus 2xh plus h squared. That's what you would get if you did that. And if you did that here, you'd get y squared minus 2yk plus k squared, and then equals r squared. So if I were to expand this all out, notice that I do have some terms that have just x and y in them, not squared. Do y'all understand that? So that's what we're actually looking at here. We're looking at something that's actually been ripped apart into its like full pieces, if that makes sense. We need to somehow put this back into this form. And to do that requires one of your favorite things, completing the square.
It's fun, but not.
Fun. Yeah, fun is definitely subjective. Complete the square. All right. So now we get to play this game, and I'm not sure where you are in your completing of the square world. Some of you find it fun. Some of you hate it. But look, it doesn't have to be that bad, all right? We don't have to make it out to be this dreary thing. But I will say this. Completing the square is sometimes taught, I'm not going to say incorrectly, but in a way that is very dangerous. All right? Very dangerous, especially later on in calculus. And let's see, I'm going to see if any of you are in that danger zone right now. So let's see what you do. So how many of you kind of have done completing square, kind of feel somewhat comfortable with it? Somewhat. Yes? Okay. All right, so I'm going to be asking for some assistance here. First thing I'm going to do is reorder things. I'm going to put all the x terms next to one another, and then all the y terms next to one another, and then I'm going to just leave the plus 1 here and leave it equal to 0. Okay, so all I've done is rearrange the equation. Now, I'm going to ask the question. If we are to complete the square, I will focus my attention on just the x stuff right now. And does anyone feel comfortable sharing with me what they would do? Half of something? You're supposed to do like half of something.
B divided by 2 squared.
B divided by 2 squared. Okay, I've heard that before also. Okay, so look, I'm just trying to figure out where everyone is. Completing the square, like, are some of you like, no idea? Who is like, no idea? I'm not going to be like, get out of here or anything. I need to know.
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know either. Don't feel bad. Okay. All right, so when you complete the square, what you're trying to do is you're trying to turn this expression, which looks relatively nice, into something that looks like this. This turned into something like this. Okay? That's the goal of completing the square. The technique to do it is as follows. You are supposed to make sure that these are written in descending order. That means highest power of x down. So x squared here and then the x term here. Don't flip those over. It's not going to work. Then what you do is you identify the coefficient, including its sign, of that second term. So the coefficient is 4. You take that number and you divide it by 2. You always divide it by 2. So I'm going to take 4 and divide it by 2. You were saying b over 2. So you take that, which is what? 2. Okay. So that number, I'm going to just put it on reserve. I'm going to box it. This is a special number and put a star next to it. I'm going to need that number in a second. All right? After I divide it by 2, then I'm going to take it and square it. So I'm going to do that number 2, and I'm going to square it, and that's going to give me 4. I'm going to box that up, and I'm going to put a little, put 2 stars next to it. Okay? So in the technique of completing the square, you take that number, you half it. Okay? Then you take that number after it's been halved, and you square it. With me? Now here's the dangerous part. What do you do with this number 4? Add it? Where? How? You add it to here. After the 4x, you just put plus 4. Okay? And you have to add it to the other side. Okay, because it's an equation, what you do to one side, you do to the other. Okay, if you've been taught that, it's not incorrect. Very dangerous, though. Very dangerous. Again, because of calculus later, that will come back to bite you. Because in calculus, you'll be working with an expression that is not an equation. And you will have to complete the square, but you won't have the freedom to add something to both sides. So you'll be stuck because you'll be like, well, what do I do? I'm supposed to add 4 to both sides, but I don't have an equation. Like, you're jammed up. Does that make sense? So then students start turning it into an equation. When it's not an equation, it becomes a disaster. So instead, here's what we're going to do. So this might be new for you. I only have 5 minutes. I'm going to remove that plus y squared minus 2y plus 1 equals 0. Okay, so I left myself a gap here. So just as clarification again, that 4, the standard way most people learn it is I would add 4 here, add 4 here. I'm not going to show that way. What I'm going to do instead, don't write this down. Just listen to me for a second. If I put plus 0 here, do you agree that I have not changed the problem at all? It's still the exact same problem. Yes? Just like adding 4 to both sides would not change the problem. This doesn't change the problem. But instead of adding 0, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add 4 and subtract 4. Isn't that adding 0? Yes? I've added nothing, but I've written that nothing in a very clever way. Right? Notice that doing this, if you move this negative 4 to the other side and left this 4 here, move the negative 4 to the other side, it's the same thing you were doing, right? But by doing plus 4 minus 4, I actually don't even need an equation to do that, do I? Because I'm working on one side only. So that's what I'm going to do instead. Now, if you do that, then you're guaranteed that the first 3 terms are going to factor. Guaranteed. Because of the way completing the square works. Because this method of halving it and then squaring it, if you do it right, this will always be a perfect square trinomial. And what it will turn out to be is something squared. And this will always be x, and guess what number goes here? That first number you had. So if it's positive 2, which it is there, you put plus 2. So you can check for yourself. If you take x plus 2 times x plus 2 and FOIL that all out, you would get back those 3 pieces. Understand? But what do you still have here? You still have that minus 4, don't you? And then you still have that one down there, right? Hold on. I still have to complete the square here, though. Hold on. We only dealt with the x's. I still have to complete the square here, because the y's are also the same format. So let's try and complete the square on this one. I'll do it right here. Well, I guess I can do it here. Okay, so what is the number that I'm going to pick? What's that number? Negative 2, right? I take half of it. What's half of negative 2? That's negative 1, right? That's my first kind of little magic number. And then I take that negative 1 and I square it. Negative 1 squared is 1. That's my second magic number. So instead of adding 1 to both sides, instead what I've done is I've given myself a little gap here. And what am I going to put there?
What is it, negative 1 plus 1?
Okay, I'm glad you said that. Minus 1 plus 1?
Yeah.
Or is it plus 1 minus 1? It actually matters here. So what was the number we had here?
1.
Positive 1? See that? Positive 1? We're going to put plus 1, then minus 1.
Okay, so our bottom...
This is the one we're going to be, this is the one we're going to be adding and subtracting. This one is the one that we use to get this piece in here. Okay, so I'm going to do plus 1 minus 1. And then these 3 terms right here, just these 3, will factor to be what? X something squared. And that number here is this one. So x minus 1 squared. And then what was still over here? We still had minus 1 plus 1. Those are going to go away, aren't they? And then over here we had minus 4 plus, and then let me bring this down, x plus 2 squared. Okay, so we have x plus 2 squared minus 4 plus x minus 1 squared. These two wind up canceling out, right? Move the 4 to the other side, and you're there. I'm out of time. I think I forgot to pass around the sign-in sheet, didn't I? Oh, wait, this should be y. Hey, this should be y. Oops. Y minus 1 squared equals 4. There we go. We have 26 on the roster. Okay, good. I never answered the question. What's the center? Negative 2, 1. And what's the radius? 2. Okay, your homework for tonight is on your schedule. And it is on the schedule that you can find online. I do expect that you would do that homework and have it ready, not to present to me, but that you would have finished it by the next time we meet, which is Tuesday. And then also that take-home quiz. That you'll turn in on its own sheet of paper. Okay? Do your best on it. Don't stress out. If you can't do it, don't be like, I'm going to go drop the class. This is crazy.